I see cannabis with psilocybin and other plant medicine changing the world, changing positive attitudes. I see addictions going away.
Hmm.
I see alcohol use dropping. I see tobacco use dropping. I see hard drugs dropping. I think that it's going to be much more widely accepted.
Welcome to the Dispensary Marketing Podcast, where we interview the top dispensary owners and experts in this space so that you can stay up to date with the latest trends and strategies that you'd otherwise miss out on. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Welcome to the Dispensary Marketing Podcast, Lance. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, Brandon.
Awesome. So just so the audience knows, can you please introduce yourself? Please let us know who you are, the name of your store, and where you're located.
All right, my name is Lance Perryman. I've got several stores, but I own the Dab in Silver Peak in Colorado. We have 8 locations. I've got dispensaries in Jamaica and Ecuador called Kaya Herb House. We have 5 of those. I also am about to open the Dab in New York, and me and my team in Florida want Pulp Farm, so I'm working with Hardeen, my partners in Las Vegas as well, and Dro, my other partners here in Colorado. So I have a lot of projects going on, and we just got a location in Ibiza as a membership lounge there as well. So lots of things going on in cannabis for me.
Awesome. I would love to talk about, your expansion into both different states and to different countries. But before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the cannabis space in the first place?
Sure. I was, so I officially got into cannabis about 14 years ago as a licensed dispensary owner. But prior to that, I had, under the medical market, I had several grow houses. I started off as and then when the laws changed from the medical market into medical dispensary market, I got my first license in 2010 to be a grower. So I was a grower. There was a dispensary we were selling our product to. We had at some point in Colorado, they made everybody kind of connect themselves to each other. So I signed up with this group called AOCC, which then became Next Harvest, which then became the Dab. I bought all of that, and that all happened in 2010. And then I acquired the dispensary in 2013, but the brands were all created back then in 2010.
Impressive. So I wouldn't say a lot of people have the skill set to grow and expand, kind of like what you've done so far. So before 2010, what were you doing that allowed you to know how to do these things?
That's a good question. So prior to me getting into cannabis, I will go reverse order. I mean, I was in the Army. I'm a veteran during Desert Storm. I was a Chinese linguist in the intelligence. From there, I got out and started getting into sales. I was a top salesperson in a chain called Ultimate Electronics Soundtrack all over the country. I then went on from there to back to University of Colorado, then where I won the entrepreneurship feasibility plan award, and I started a chain of coffee shops. From coffee shops, I sold those off to a bigger brand, and then I created something called Icon Burger, which ultimately ended up selling to Quiznos to become Smash Burger. And then it's pretty easy to go from burgers to weed because I was doing that already.
Right.
I don't know who eats burgers and doesn't smoke weed, or vice versa, I should say. But that's how it all happened. And then I got into cannabis. Was a grower first. Got my first store. Since then, we've grown to a 2 grows, a lab, multiple. I do consulting all over the world. But I am based out of Colorado. But with New York and Florida open, I am pushing towards the East Coast and then into Europe as well.
Right. So 2010, what did the world look like for you when you first started?
That's a fantastic question. Well, it was interesting because there's a lot of us going for it, but we were kind of the pioneers of cannabis in Colorado right back then. Getting the application and going to the dog track. That's where we did all our application interviews. And I remember seeing 200 SUVs, black SUVs out there. The MED, Marijuana Enforcement Division in Colorado, looked like the SWAT team. Looked like Black Hawk Down, and that's all changed, right? It was just all this overspending. But it was a huge learning curve. We didn't have testing back then. People were just were there bad growers and a few good growers, and now that there's just a big gap in talent back then. Now that gap has shrunk drastically. There's a lot of people know how to grow weed. There's a lot of ways. The term is a lot of ways to skin a cat. There's a lot of ways to grow cannabis, but Now it's getting a little more standard operations on how
Sure.
cannabis works. I mean, you have living soil, you've got cocoa, but pretty much people are doing, whether it's really breaking down to indoor, outdoor, greenhouse, right? Those are the three categories. However, medium you're using to grow, but yeah, it's there's a lot more professionalism in now. Back then, there's
Mm.
kind of some gangster crap going on. I had to deal with Russians, Armenians, Colombians, Chinese. It was just everyone that came from kind of that side of the world brought some bad habits and bad
Hmm.
people with them. But I think it's a lot has changed. Then, man, I'm grateful to have been resilient, but and seeing some of the same people still. I mean, I do have relationship with some of the longest standing people in Colorado, Native Roots, Green Solution, original partners, all just. I've seen a lot change. I've seen a lot of the people who are doing all the non-compliance stuff going away, and then that's nice to see because that's not good having being in what they call the black market, traditional market now, and the regulated market. It's tough to operate in both. It's why I don't operate in the Delta market, Delta 8 market.
So you breezed across this word, but I think it's incredibly important. You said the word resilient, and if there's anything I've learned from these interviews is that being an entrepreneur is hard, and being a cannabis entrepreneur is very, 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 very hard. And to not only do it start in 2010 when things weren't as, let's say, as you say, professional. Like, how did you continue, pushing on? Like, what was the reason why you continued in this industry for so long?
Fair question. Well, first and foremost, my mom has lupus, so I came from a medical perspective at first.
Hmm.
I really wanted to be, prior to cannabis happening, I wanted to be a grape grower and a winemaker,
Mm.
right? I'm a
Mm.
big foodie with Smashburger, and after I sold Smashburger to Quiznos Subs, I wanted to, I love the plant. I always wanted to be in the game. So, and I do love the culture of cannabis. I think culture, as my partner say, culture eats strategy for breakfast every day. It's if you can, and I just realized, hey, this is something I was selling like out of my coat for years, marijuana, and now I can do it at a store. And I was not going to let some of the things I did in the past affect what I'm doing now in the future. And I've just held that line with my employee. At one point, we had almost 150 employees in the state of Colorado. I've also managed hundreds of thousands of square feet of grows and with different companies. And I just have held the same line. I mean, you're only as good as your people, and the only way you keep your people and everyone can have a real job in cannabis is by doing things right. And
Hmm.
sometimes that's not doesn't make you the most money in the short term, but here I am 14 years later, still standing, with very few of us still standing from those days. And it's really honorable to be with those people side by side. And even though they're competitors, we're actually friends now. We're really business breeds business and culture breeds culture. And so it's really nice to like go to Benzinga and MJ BlitzCon and see the originals. Right? I spent a lot of time in California, spent a lot of
Hmm.
time in Montana, Oregon, Washington, Las Vegas, Nevada, Colorado, and now you see it moving. It's just I'm so grateful to be in this industry and selling cannabis, which I was born in 1970. I never thought this would ever happen. There was no way. I was from Hawaii, and we would call Hawaii, marijuana pakalola in Hawaii. I just never thought. And my whole family, my mom smoked weed when she
Hmm.
was my brother, and everyone I know smokes cannabis. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
here we are.
So as they say, despite being competitors, you can always respect the men in the arena. The people that are going to battle day in and day out. Those are the people that, despite being your enemies, quote unquote, they're the people that actually understand who you are and exactly what you're going through on a day-to-day basis.
That's right, and friendly competition is good, right? It's good.
Yeah.
It keeps you honest. When there's no competition, that's when it gets weird, right? That's when one
Yeah.
guy's dominating something. I think that's a little weird, but I've just seen a lot of people do the wrong thing, and they're
Mm.
not in business anymore.
Yeah.
I could give you. I have contracts not paid to me of people that aren't in business anymore because they couldn't help themselves, but not get out of that traditional market. Some people just couldn't pivot. From growing from
Hmm.
a basement or into a house to transfer that into greenhouses and outdoor and indoor. It doesn't translate properly sometimes. People don't. I brought business acumen. I was already a very big executive
Hmm.
at Smashburger and Icon Burger and Soundtrack, and I was at a big deal in the military. And I just took all those qualities, really resumed a lot of the stuff that happened in the military. I just took regimented. I had SOPs back then. In 2010, no one had SOPs. No one had handbooks. No,
Yes.
our logos sucked. We were making, my first company was called Next Harvest, and it took me a long time to dial that in. We were called Next Harvest. You'll like this, Brandon, because every time I go out, so I would actually go to the grow in the morning. I was growing at my house.
Mhm.
I'd then go to the grow in the morning because back then you could sell from your house to medical stores. So then I go to my grow and I do that. I then go open the store down in Denver. I then go sell wholesale in the afternoon. I then come close the store at night. I then go and check on the grow and both grows. And I was working 18-hour days, and not every day, but 7 days a week. It was hard to. Back then, we didn't have all the automated systems,
Mhm.
uh, um, and so we called ourselves Next Harvest because every time I go to collect money from people, they would tell me all their aspirations on their next harvest. Next
Mm.
harvest, I'm buying a Mercedes. Next harvest, I'm going on a cruise. So I used to write all my invoice. Next harvest, pay me, and that's
Yes.
how the name Next Harvest happened. So that's and then Next Harvest became the dab at the 50th Super Bowl. The Broncos beat Cam Newton, and we were there, and the gold
Yep.
ticker tape player, and that year he kept doing the dab. And I said at that moment when we won and Cam Newton got destroyed by Von Miller and my boy Demaryius Thomas, I said, let's call it the dab. Let's be the first
Mhm.
concentrate focus. So that was when really concentrates were getting really, really hot back then. Remember when
Right.
710 Lab, man, Brad and I from 710 Labs, known each other for 14 years. All these same guys I've known for so long. And it really is cool seeing that some of us are still standing because it's been a battle. Everyone
No.
thinks we're all billionaires here. We're not. We all owe taxes. We all paid crazy tweety stuff. So
Mhm.
that's kind of my story on what it's like since then.
So this might be a good segue into my next question. So what are your current biggest challenges right now?
Different states have different challenges, right?
Yeah.
Colorado's right now the challenge in Colorado is that it's cannabis as a whole exists in the states. It's a down market right now. It's not like they're smoking less. They're just
Mhm.
people aren't spending as much, right? They're more value conscious now. So that's what I've seen lately. People
Mhm.
pre rolls, distillate carts, distillate gummies, rosin. People want a value, right? Well,
Mhm.
you're very similar to the alcohol. And you don't go buy Clase Azul every day in 1942, right? You do that on occasion, but you smoke your Kendall Jackson Chardonnay, affordable stuff, right? Bottles that squeeze
Yeah.
on
You have your
occasion.
dailies, and then you have your special events.
Yeah, back then in the early 80s, everyone was like, "Hey, let me buy the best crap. Let's buy all 710 Green Dot. Let's buy all these, Jungle Boys. Let's buy all the cookies back then, right?" Well, that's not happening as much anymore. People are just going for
Mhm.
convenience to how to smoke. Remember back then, everyone would get to rig out a torch and heat it up and wait 40 seconds for the boil to temperature. I mean, that whole process doesn't really happen anymore. It's like
Mhm.
I want to get high now, right? I want to get high
Yes.
now because it's a mood enhancer. And for me, I can't live without cannabis. I'm not a I don't get I do it at night every night, but I'm a microdose user as well as with cannabis and psilocybin,
Mhm.
and I need it. If I don't have it, man, my mood's off. And so
Mhm.
I really that's part of the part I love is like seeing how it's cannabis has changed, especially in in new states like Florida and New York. It's really exciting, but kind of throws you back like 10 years. And wow, we're back there again. You're dealing with bodegas selling weed everywhere, but it's cool now because everyone's smoking it all over the East Coast. But
Right.
yeah, the regulations have gotten stricter. Some regulations don't make sense. The testing, the mic, the testing requirements aren't really thought out anymore. I really wish the regulators would understand like how much it costs for us to operate. Right,
Mhm.
we're at a disadvantage. Everything, how much our banking costs are. Employees make a lot of money. And employees are gypsies nowadays. Right, the 2 week notice. What is that? It doesn't exist anymore. They just don't
Yeah.
show up. Right, and so it has its challenges, man. But with the right team, and I've got to tip my hat to my CFO, my
Mhm.
chief of staff, my director of operations, my partner Greg Zuckert from Harvest Cannabis Story, True Leaf and Story Cannabis. He's with me now. We're called the Wonder Twins, Wonder Twins family. What the fuck, Emily? It's our company. But I now had the fortune of being around I've just put myself around people that you can rock with. I want to be the dumbest guy in the room, and I've gotten a team where I am the dumbest guy in the room. My people are smart, and I'm kind of like I make the plate. I'm the creative. If you look at my desk, I've got I R&D everything, so I'm always trying.
Oh,
This is our
nice.
humidors. I've got Jerome Baker. I got a new product. I got every R&D. That's boxes of cannabis, humidor, a flower over there. Just
Yeah.
my whole life is R&D and looking at brands and analyzing brands, analyzing strains. I like that. I love where cannabis is becoming a commodity now. It's becoming more
Hmm.
intelligent, right?
Hmm.
I really do like that.
Do you see the cannabis space turning into something like, where you have your sommeliers or you have your cigar connoisseurs or you have your craft breweries? Do you see cannabis becoming closer and closer to that?
I think so. I do. I think craft cannabis. They're I love traditional market brands like Love in Our Eyes. They're friends of mine. Incredible products. There's so many great products.
Hmm.
I do think the craft has gotten better. I think the heady crowd is a little less vocal than it used to
Hmm.
be. I mean, 8 years ago, man, you can some heady crowds are tough because they're mom meatloaf that they're in their basement, have a big opinion. That's kind of still there, but it's not as much because
Sure.
product quality has gotten there. The states have actually stepped in and with good regulations or regulated cannabis. But yeah, the real high end stuff. I love the high. I am a connoisseur. I
Hmm.
love fire product. There is a difference. I know the difference. I do not send me product if you want me to give me your honest opinion because I'm very straightforward on what it
Yeah.
is. Um, and I love that. I love that. Is it for everybody? No, but there's once you get to a standard in cannabis consumption, it's hard to go backwards, right? You don't want to go back,
Sure.
and I like it all. I do. There's certain products I don't like, certain genetics I don't like personally, but I do like that people know what they're looking for now. Now, if you go to like our store in Las Vegas, Harding in Las Vegas, right? You have to go to Harding College now to learn about terpenes, right? To learn about,
Hmm.
I think people understand it's not about indica sativa, but we know that it's not about THC. It's about terpenes, right? It's about terpenes and what you smell, you like, right? Like it's like humans. We have pheromones. We're drawn to certain people for certain reasons. And cannabis is the same way. If you don't smell cannabis and it's bad, go, man, it's horrible. I'm going to smoke
Hmm.
this, right? Yeah, you're drawn to it.
Yeah.
This smells like crap. Let's light it up. And that's what I like about it. People are understanding. Trust your sensories. Trust what you
Hmm.
like, right? I know I can't smoke certain cannabinoids. I terpenes. I can't smoke beta caryophyllene. I will freak out, right? We all
Hmm.
know that now. We know what we like. I don't like hazes, right? I'm sure
Hmm.
your preferences. And I like that the consumer knows what they want now, and they're doing it on site, knows, experience. I love it. I love that it's still evolving too. This thing like rosin, how hot rosin's gotten different forms now, right? Rosin edibles are my favorite thing, right? I
Hmm.
love rosin edibles. It doesn't get me dehydrated, and I love the way how the competition is getting so creative now.
Mm.
That's
Yes.
what's cool, the creativity. And some brands are so simple. I'm like, damn, I wish I thought of that. It's so simple and to the point. And so, yes, I think I still think there's classifications and what consumers want. That heady level is shrinking. The dabbable markets are kind of shrinking because the hardware is there for vapes now, right? 2, 3 gram. I got a 7 gram vape now that we're launching. That I love
Oh,
seeing things
wow.
like that. Like I never thought you'd get a 7 gram vape, right? We
It's
got them now.
crazy.
Man, yeah, 7 gram. Right? It's a 7 gram vape. We're launching this
Wow.
in Colorado. It's a big Delta company that's coming over. But I love seeing this. Like
Yeah.
that would last me a month myself, right?
Yes.
A month. Exciting stuff, right?
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. One of the things as well is that you're clearly in a lot of different markets. I think one of the disadvantages that people that only work in one state is that they don't necessarily have a larger sample size on what the industry as a whole is kind of looking at, right?
Right.
So, in your opinion, what would you say are a few of the keys to running a successful dispensary?
Dispensary. Okay, great. Well, location is key.
Hmm.
I locate. It's remember in the old days you have to put location, especially in Cali and Colorado, in the weirdest place, right? Industrial parks and the outskirts of town. Well, you
Whatever
can get
landlords would let you use the space.
yeah. I mean, that's what's changed. Back then, you get no GI tenant improvement allowances, right? You get nothing. They thought you were printing money, and we all learned every dollar I'm taking in and spending 85 cents in taxes and other and
Yep.
SG&A. But I do believe, and we have a new story in Broomfield, Colorado. If anyone wants to see it, it's all my brain out there once. We've got rotating cases. We've got less brands, and we're more. And that's one thing I'll tell you is that I think some dispensaries aren't loyal to brands. They just buy whatever's the best price. I am a guy who believes, my company believes in brands and backing brands and showing love to them. They show love back. And and it starts with your staff, and it starts with me. It starts with me setting the example of like not being prideful of. And a lot of people tell you, I come to my stores, I'm picking up trash on the way in, right? I'm wiping the windows down. All those things matter, and I'm not above. I'm not above any of my teammates, which are everybody on my team, the receptionists, to the guards, to the delivery drivers, to the growers, because I'm fully vertical in multiple states.
Right.
And I'm willing to do anything. And that's how cannabis is. Cannabis is like, wow, let's just get off our asses and do stuff and get it done. All right. And so I pride myself on managing my people. In the past, if you met old Lance, which is this guy, if you came to my desk and he was on my desk with a microphone, that was me firing you, right? This guy fired probably 1,000 people in his lifetime. And so much so that somebody threw him and broke his fingers. I've learned to trust my people, right?
Right.
Hire based on qualities and allow them to make mistakes, right? Mistakes happen. You teach them and you grow with them, and you don't. And then what you don't want is bad behavior, right? There's a big difference between a mistake and poor behavior.
Of course.
And so I am a guy that loves my people, and to me, it's really easy, Brandon. It's got to be a win-win-win. The company's got to win, the customer's got to win, and staff has to win. If there's a loss in that chain, then it's a loss to the whole. So
Right.
all those things have to be. For 10 years, I responded to every review on my search personally.
Oh, awesome.
Then my marketing team cut me off. They said, "You're terrible at it. You take things personal." Yeah, which I did. I did for years. Every 1-star review, I take personal. But I too have learned as an executive to understand, how cultures change, and
Right.
obviously COVID changed all our lives, and then we all loved COVID, right? Smoking weed, staying at home, and then once it ended, we all realized how poor we were, right? And so, we just imagine what we've experienced in 14 years in
Crazy.
Canada, right? It's great.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. I know we're short on time, but there's just so many additional questions. We might have to do a part 2.
Right.
But I'll keep on going.
No,
So
let me just keep going. I'll tell you what I'm ready.
no, for sure. So we have the segment where I ask the previous guest owner, what question do they have for the next guest on the show? And this is without context because I don't know who the next guest is, but they have the honor of Mr. Lance answering this question. I actually think you'd be the perfect person to answer this question. So this guest asked, when does it make sense to move to other states? Originally, they tried to go to New Mexico and struggled, went to Rhode Island and struggled, and now they're just wholly California focused. So they have a model what looks best like in California, and they're dialing that down, but they want to know, when does it really make sense to move to other states?
Well, I think for me, it makes sense. For me, when I started moving was when I felt comfortable with my base, my base camp, right? Colorado is my base camp. Am I doing it right there? To master my craft in the state that I live in that I know. Once I did that, it was easy for me to pivot to Jamaica, go to Illinois, go a lot of time in California. I spent time with the Guild in San Jose and Woodland Hills. I can't remember the name of that. The atrium there, and I was hired for receiverships. I don't move. You got to understand your bandwidth and your team's bandwidth, right? The minute you get out of that, it becomes uncomfortable. It's disjointing, and I really think you got to believe in your spidey sense and what you're capable of, right? And when your spidey sense or intuition tingles, rarely is it wrong. So when I go into another state, like Oregon my partners there was a challenging state for me to be in. I was up there on a receivership for a group called Sweet Leaf that their owners got in trouble, went to prison. I got hired to come in, and that was a difficult state for me to operate in because I didn't understand the landscape. I was out of my comfort zone. Portland's like a very foodie city, but also a little. They're proud of being strange, right? And I was not used to that strange market, so I just think you got to listen to your intuition when it's time to go in, and you have to have structure, a team in place that can
Mm-hmm.
sustain what you currently have, right? Man,
Mm-hmm.
if you can maintain that, I can pivot out, get us more, and really, what makes our teams great is building teams. I like building brands, building teams, having people take ownership in what they do. So, I'm now, my bandwidth right now is Colorado, Florida, New Jersey, New York, and Jamaica and Ibiza, and,
That's a
and
lot
then
of bandwidth.
yeah, and soon Panama. But I couldn't do it without my partner Greg Zuger, without my CFO Denise, without my team in Florida. I've just got these great teammates: Charlie Matherly, Ken Stillwell, Dr. Nick Bataro, Scott Smith in packaging. I just have teammates that know what to do. I don't have to explain it. They know their lanes, and they have clear lanes. They have job descriptions. This is what you do, right?
Right.
And that's where traditional corporate business makes sense, right?
Right.
So that's to answer my question. I move in the States when I have the bandwidth to do so.
Right, right. But before we continue, if you're enjoying this episode and are looking for some marketing help for your own dispensary, you can check us out at cannabudmarketing.com or visit us in the links in the description below. Now, on to the rest of the episode. And what question would you have for the next guest owner that I interview?
I'd like to ask another thing. Where do you see cannabis in 3 years? Where do you see it after the deschedule, or safer banking passing, with the new presidency happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we see cannabis in 3 years? Where's Delta fall within cannabis? Delta 8 in 3 years, right? I appreciate both markets, but I kind of stay in one for the most part. Yeah, I'd like to know, like, where do they see cannabis in 3 years, and where do they see it in 6 years? I don't want to go 5 years. 5 years in cannabis is it feels like a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every three, when you see in 3 years, where do you see it in 6 years? I'd be curious where these owners see their companies, right?
Right, right.
And when's their exit strategy? When do you tap out and say, either I didn't do well at this and I'm gone, or where do I cash in on all those years, 14 years of success? So those would be
Right,
my questions to your next guest.
right, right. That's interesting because I also asked that question. So I put it
Ah,
back to you. Where do you see the future of the cannabis industry heading?
I love that. I love that question. And where I see it at is I see the deltas going away. Obviously, they're
Mm-hmm.
they're going away in Colorado. They're going away in Florida. I see them going away as those markets open up to traditional THC markets. And I'm appreciative of those people, the pioneers that got cannabis to the masses in the delta form or different cannabinoids, because that lets people know. I see cannabis with psilocybin and other plant medicine changing the world, change positive attitudes. I see addictions going away. Right?
Mm.
I see alcohol use dropping. I see tobacco use dropping. I see hard drugs dropping. Um, I think that it's going to be much more widely accepted, and I see the government actually seeing that, hey, this isn't a bunch of drug dealers that entered into that we're going to tax. Now let's tax business people that know what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and that we've paid our dues. So I'm hoping in 3 to 5 years that it's legal in almost every state in almost every country. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see. I like to see our taxes being used properly. I like to see testing being reasonable. Testing things should be tested that actually harm you, like mycotoxins. Not aspergillus doesn't always hurt you, right? This is the test that that governments just throw out there. Hey, have this done. I said, why? Do you have any proof that hurts you? Right? I like to see cannabis under the same direction of alcohol
Mm-hmm.
and tobacco. That's what I like to see. That would be fair, right? Instead, we're like, you guys just get beat up till you're bloody and you can't get up, and then you get up anyways. How many times I got to beat you? I like the beatings to stop. We've been beaten
Right,
enough. 280 is beating us up enough. And
right.
I think what I love about it is the stigma's going away, right? I've got
Mm.
four kids. I've got 4 kids and got a 12-year-old. I'm actually going through family courts now. And 6 years ago, when I had to call a family investigator, which is part of the court system when you're working on custody stuff, they look down on it. They look at me like, "Oh, you're a weed guy, right?" Now it's a little more. Even when you're in front of a judge, they understand. There's a lot of positives to cannabis, and people are seeing that now. The stigmas are going away, and that's what I'm the most proud of. Let's get rid of these stigmas. Who's
Mm-hmm.
died on cannabis, right? I remember the old Saturday Night Live clip that said that in Colorado they had these billboards about cannabis and smoking, And the guy said, yeah, those signs should say speed up because every cannabis smoker is like driving extra
Super
cautiously
slow.
and slow, right?
Yeah.
Not killing a lot of people. We're not you're good at a cannabis show. There's not a lot of brawls there. People are chill. You insert alcohol and other things. There's problems. I don't see that with cannabis. I just see
Hmm.
a loving culture of people that are vibing together in times that are tough, man. And
Hmm.
I just see it as something that's going to be helpful for our world and our culture in a big
Right.
way because it just calms you down.
Right. Right. What advice would you give yourself? What advice would you give to your younger self if you were to start all over again?
Oh, great question. I would use more of other people's money. Right?
Mm.
I'm the kind of guy that's invested all my money into things. I've watched some great partners sit on the sidelines, not put a lot of money in, and end up in the same position. So I would use other people's money. I'd learn more about how to raise money properly and
Mm.
better terms because we've uh, and 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 I would be a little more patient. I'd be a little more patient and pull. You're always out there trying to do the next best thing, and I love that. But patience in my decision making because sometimes you jump into it and you buy the wrong packaging and you didn't do the proper due diligence on
Mm.
deals. But yeah, I would slow things down a little bit, and then I tell myself to understand my worth and value because I know what I am. I know when you have a good person that in other fields you got these professionals that you walk in the room and you know that's the guy, right? And I know I'm one of those guys in cannabis and one of those people in cannabis that are great. And I would just tell I've settled for things. I've taken deals that were bad deals that took up more of my time there. So I would be very particular on the deals I take and the
Mm.
partnerships I form. And that's just
Mm.
it. Any deal I do with a partnership in the future is going to have a 90-day period there because it's like dating someone new. You think you know them, and the psycho comes out, right? You find out about day 90. Like, oh,
Yeah.
there are all the bones. I finally found all the bones. Right?
Hmm.
I found the body.
Hmm.
I would just tell you, like, I would tell myself to have a better exit strategy when you know things are wrong, right? Sometimes we
Mm.
get stuck into something. We don't have that golden parachute to pull us out of. I'm yelling Mayday, 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 and no one's answering me. And I should be just jumping out of the plane in my parachute and moving on to we dwell on we get stuck in these partnerships and relationships with bad people, and haven't had the ability to just be forward. Go, hey, I don't like you. You're not good for me. So let me just part
Yeah.
ways, right? So I would be better at pulling off the band-aid.
Right. I think a lot of people, when they think about exit strategy, they think about how do they sell their business X years down the line. But what you're saying is also have an exit strategy for potential partnerships, because if they don't work out, then you're in for probably a lot of money and a lot of time spent trying to get out of it.
Oh, and the legal system's tough. Everyone uses the legal. You can sue anybody for anything. And there's nothing worse than dealing with lawsuits, and they exist. And so it's just better decision making on who you're bringing on, and your due diligence. Go
Sure.
meet their family. Go see what they've done. Right.
Mm.
A lot of cannabis and new people to cannabis. There's a lot of hype and flex and a lot of nonsense that means nothing. I want to deal with people that have a business acumen that understand, how to treat people. And I really do believe, hey, you can get a lot done and still be a kind company and have a kind culture and be a kind boss, and that's important. I just when I deal with jerks and assholes in this industry, man, I'm
For
like,
sure.
why am I even here? I don't. Whenever I go to Benzing and MJBS, it's funny because when I started going to hemp events and I started seeing old marijuana people that got kicked out and they went into hemp, and I go to the events.
Sure.
Oh, I just walked through there. I remember me and a guy named Brett Jordan from Native Roots were walking through this event with Keith Cole, founder CEO. Eric Knutson were all going through, and we're seeing all these people we knew. They got booted out of marijuana into hemp. Like, oh, don't trust that guy. Don't trust that guy. Don't. That's what I didn't
Yeah.
like about the hemp industry. You had all these derelicts that were
Mm.
sucking marijuana, and they went over to hemp and kind of screwed that industry over. And then here they are at the last laugh because all those Delta guys made a lot of money and no Tweety
Right.
E, right? So here I'm laughing at those guys. You suck. Like, yeah, well, I don't pay taxes. Yeah, you're
Right.
better than me.
Right. Um, Again, I want to be super respectful of your time because I know you want to keep it shorter. So just at any point, just let me know. Pull up a
Yeah,
finger.
let's
Let
go.
me
How
know
about
if you
another
want to
10
say.
minutes?
Okay, sure, sounds good. So you said something very interesting on the partnership point. Because clearly you've dealt with a lot of people. And create a lot of partnerships, and probably good ones and some bad ones. How would you go about figuring out if a person is a good fit for you. Obviously, you're going to look at the skeletons in the closet through the 90 days, but what do you necessarily look out for in the first times meeting them to determine if you think they might be a good fit?
Good question. I have to have rapport with them, right? Because you probably can tell I have a lot of energy, right? I have a lot of,
I
they
love
called
it.
me
I love it.
hyperactive as a kid. And now it's ADHD. It's just, my mom just called me crazy. Or something. Now it's savant. There's all these cool terms for it. Um, it's a fine line between like crazy and savant, right? On the spectrum and crazy. But I tend to stray from crazy when I'm looking for somebody. I can tell, and just, man, you got to be cool, man. I call it the Fonzarelli. You got to be cool, man. And I want you to be cool. Because if I can have a drink with you and I can meet your family and we can be some, I don't have problems with those kind of people. Right? Rarely do I have a really good relationship with a family and the people, and then you're like, wow, this guy was really shady. That has happened, but that doesn't happen as much. So I just look at who they are as a whole, how they carry themselves, how they treat others, right. But the standard due diligence would be doing a background check on them. Even that doesn't always pan out, but yeah, I just think it's getting to know them and being able to weed through the bullshit. Right, there's a lot of bullshit out there. A lot of when people tell you something, you know it's wrong. Like, you're wrong, right? It's a red flag to me. Like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's lying. I'm moving forward. So I've gotten better at that. And I think originally in Cannabis, you had this huge circle. And while you're the nucleus, your team's the nucleus. I had just too many rings out there, and now I've just tightened up in the end into the core people. And I really do when I know what I bring to the table, and I know exactly what I'm good at. You'll never see me on a computer. My staff laughs at me because I have stacks of computers. I'm not a computer guy. And I love being with people who know exactly what they are, right? When someone tries to wear every single hat, even though we're all a lot of smart people are capable of wearing multiple hats, but when guys try to do everything and don't bow down when they're not good, I need someone who can say, hey, you know what? I'm actually not good at it. They say, Lance, make a spreadsheet. Never going to happen, right? I took it. So all through, I know how to do it. I act stupid. I've never done it before. Yes, I took Excel in college. I know how to do it, but I don't do it because I'm not good. I'm not the best guy to do it. And I love partners that say, hey, Lance, here's what you do. Here's what I do. We know our lanes. There are some overlap. And that's when I take people on. And I want to make sure that we can make money together. We can monetize together. And we can also look at each other and tell each other when we made a mistake, when we make a poor decision, and take some accountability for our poor actions or our good actions, right? You get rewarded for great stuff. And when you do bad things, say, fuck, that was stupid. That cost us $100,000 or $2 million. We used a pesticide that killed all the mites, and yet we had to shut our whole grow down, right? All these things have happened, right? And it is nice that you can when you find partners that you can love the great times with, but also pick each other up in bad times, right? Hey, because you are a team. I rarely use, I'm with my team, I rarely use I and me. I'm always us and we and teammates. And because I respect and I've done everything. I've done the wholesale, the growing, the manufacturing, the trimming, right? Bud tending, receptionist, janitor. I don't care. It doesn't. All those things are they're part of a chain of an incredible team, and there is no pride. There is no one can be over the other and doing it. I mean, if I'm not good at something, I'll tell you that. But it's just operating like I treat it like a family. These are my family, right? I mean, we sell weed. I tell my staff that all the time. Every Wednesday, I have my manager meeting. Like, guys, let's lose our attitudes. We're selling marijuana. We could, you're working at Arby's 3 years ago. We're selling marijuana, making so much money, not wearing a weird outfit that's brown, right? Like, there's so much cool things about this, and I think we forget how cool cannabis is. Right?
You also mentioned that you want to create a triple win for everyone: win for the customer, win for the staff, and then win for the company as well. How do you create that triple win?
So the win-win-win. Well, it's I've used this for a long time in sales because I used to be an electronic sales for years. I had 2,000 employees selling electronics around the country, and I was the head trainer for them, and I came from those days of electronic sales where I realized I had to be a win-win-win because there's from the consumer perspective, people think, sometimes in our current culture, our staff sometimes are entitled, and so are the customers. And it can't always, that old term that customers is always right. That's bullshit. There's a lot of customers who are assholes, and they're not right. And I'm the first guy to say, you know what, you go be a problem. If you read my reviews, just go read all the Dab 1-star reviews. You can tell what I am from. I'm like, you go be someone else's problem. I'm done with you. You're not good for us, right? And you just identify it. So I want the customer to come in and go, hey, I'm going to come back because I felt that store gave me value. I felt like I got value out of my purchase. It was a good deal. I had a good experience. This was a good transaction, and I will be back because I felt like I was treated fairly. I got something worth my time and worth my money, right? So remember, they don't have to come to me. They don't have to come to your store. They can go sell in Colorado. You have 1,200 other options, right? In California, you've got a ton of other options. Right? This isn't like Georgia where there's 5 licenses, right? You were like, damn, I'm going to wait for 8 hours because or Strange Stars in Long Island. I'm going to wait in a 4-hour line because there are no other options, right? They now have options. So the consumer, as long as you give them that great experience, and they want to be heard. If they get a bad product, I have a lot of my own brands, and I've got brands. I want to make sure with brands that hears that customer. If the customer had a bad experience, it's funny how you ever know someone comes to a hold the line. We're not going to give you a back. I had a bad pre roll. We're not going to give you a free pre roll. Fuck you. You're the problem. No, give the guy a pre roll. What's your cost? 70 cents? Right? Is it really worth the argument? So I want that customer to have a good experience. I also want that customer to understand that relationship that, hey, you also got to treat the bartender well. You got to talk to him courteously. It's basic tact. It's basic morals, right? You have to have a level of professionalism from the consumer and a level of professionalism from the customer. And then in return, as the owner, if that's working, then I've got to be putting products out there that the customer is going to be happy with. I've got to be telling my teammates how to treat that customer since you're on the front lines. And I'm going to reward you for that, right? I'm going to reward you. So it's just a cyclical network or system that all has to work. And if it doesn't work, one of those things is wrong, and there's got to be a change. If I feel like my upper management's not doing their job and they're screwing up these 2 yeses or these 2 positives, that's got to go. If I feel bud tenders screwing up the relationship either at the corporate level or in front of the customer, that employee's got to go. And if the customer is just somebody you can never win with, every week he comes in, every week this person, he or she has a problem, then that person, especially when you look at their Google reviews and every review they left that's what I like doing. When I get a 1-star review, I go look at that person, right? And if I see they've never left a 5-star review for any product and all they do is bash people, well, who wants that guy as a customer, right? I think that's how we fight back against a bad customer. Everyone tell you, hey, F you, go somewhere else, right? You go, if you can't, it's really easy to talk shit about someone and say bad things about a brand coming, but it takes a lot more to say a good thing about it. And I tell my people, leave good reviews, talk about it's important that Uber now we're always worried about our Uber rating, right? And so it's so strange that really matters now, but it kind of does, and that's how we keep our culture in check. Is that you can't just complain about everything. You also gotta highlight why you go to that place, and that's how I think it's all connected, right?
Right. And then how do you keep your team happy as well?
Man, that's something I'm really good at. I try to lift spirits. I wanted to be a comedian for years, and I try to make them feel like I'm not above them. I mean, I used to wear Armani suits every day. Now you see how I dress. We need that, right? This is cool when you've actually made it, right? It's not that cool if you haven't made it, right? You don't walk into MJ BizCon in a hoodie and I'm the king, right? It takes a while to get there, but now that I just try to be on their level, right? And we give back. I do charities. I have something called a Second Sunday Service where for 30 months, COVID kind of threw that off, but for 30 months in a row, we went out there on the second Sunday of every month. We went back, gave back to the homeless people. Mother's Day, we gave out toiletries for the women and roses, and I do a lot in town of Louisville, Colorado. We had a very major fire a couple years ago that burned down. I think we lost 2,000 homes in Louisville. One of my stores caught on fire. Well, a lot of pets were lost, so I get my staff. We throw concerts and raise the money. We raised $60,000 for all the pets that were killed in those fires. So part of what I do with my employees is it's just not a job. We have a responsibility to our community, and we have a responsibility to the cannabis community as well, right? We have to the only way we break these stereotypes and these stigmas is acting accordingly and acting professional and acting like we care, right? There's a lot of cannabis companies that just didn't care, right? When you purposely cheat customers and you're using pesticides you're not supposed to use, because remember everyone who used Eagle 20 back in the day and all these things, and they didn't, Ava and all that shit, they didn't care about the consumer. You have
Right.
to care about the consumer because they're, what are you doing? You're going to kill the people that are paying, that are coming to your store. You want to
Exactly.
help them, right? And we got to remember
Right.
this. This really, you can call it what you want, and yes, is it more like alcohol now? Nah, but it's still medicinal, right? We got to. I mean, you ever have an avid smoker and not smoke for a week? They're horrible. They're the worst human beings. They're scratching their skin. They're like meth heads, right? And because it keeps us cool, man. And
Yeah.
that's cannabis, man. It's cool, and it's still such a social thing. You still pass around a pre roll, right? That's why we didn't do well in COVID. We gave COVID to everybody, right? They get passed around their rigs and their
Yeah.
bongs. Like
Yeah.
cannabis is but part of that is the culture, right? Like just 420 in Denver last week, we had we had Gucci Mane and Afro Man, and just seeing like 50,000 people spark up on 420. Come on, does alcohol do that? Does someone raise their glass at midnight and chug around the country? That doesn't happen, right? What is there cocaine hour I don't know about? Because but cannabis has that time that people are just like, fuck. I mean, it's so funny because when we see the number 420 hit, like I gotta smoke, right? I
Yep.
see that number. It can be written on the wall. I feel like smoking, right? That time. But that's that's kind of what I love about cannabis, man. Is that it's and you go back to your question. I really preach to my staff that we are selling cannabis again. I get them to buy into it. This is such a great thing, right?
Right. 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 Lance, please plug all of your stuff. Where can people find you and your stores if they want to get in touch?
Okay, so if you want to find me, I'm Mr. Period Lance Perryman on Instagram. I'm not the best social media guy. I'm on Facebook, but I can't access it. I here in Colorado, I'm the Dab. 7 locations in Colorado: Glenwood Springs, Parachute, two in Louisville, 2 in Denver. We've also got 1 in Broomfield, the newest one. In Florida, we're going to be popping up everywhere. You're going to see me with Hardin in Las Vegas. That's my partners in Las Vegas. We're opening a Hardin in my Florida soon. I'm partners with Dro on a lot of projects. So you're going to find me everywhere. If you're in cannabis, you're going to find me. But if you're in Colorado, please stop by at the Dab or Silver Peak in Aspen, which is the first license in Colorado. We'd love to see you there, but that's where you'll find us.
Lance, I just wanted to say this was one of my favorite interviews. The energy that you have is absolutely infectious, and the expertise that you have is absolutely impressive as well. I don't think I've interviewed somebody that has so many experience with so many stores and with brands across different states and with different countries as well. So I wanted to.
Jamaica, if you're in Jamaica, Kaya Herb House, you got to go to it. It's
Don't forget Jamaica,
incredible.
everyone.
Yeah, Jamaica. Come to Jamaica. I got you. My buddy Bali there runs a tight tip. We got the best store in Ochoria, so we got a drug claim. But yeah, I'm accessible. If people want to, I'm obviously I'm always looking for a good opportunity. So if people out there need help, you can find me.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you very much for taking the time out your day to hop on the show. That's it for me today. Thank you for hopping on the Dispensary Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Kwan, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Dispensary Marketing Podcast. My name's Brandon Kwan, and I'm the founder of Cannabud Marketing, the #1 marketing agency of choice for dispensaries, both in the United States and in Canada. If you ever want to get in touch with me about any marketing strategies, tips, and tricks, I can definitely help you. Just go visit our website at cannabudmarketing.com. That's CANNABUD marketing.com, or just check the links in the description below. Until next time, talk to you later. Bye.